Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is El-Askalany. Welcome to the weekly show of Topics and Quran, where we talk every week about certain topic from our life, from that topic, and see the reflection and the meanings in Quran. Usually we go over like something social every week, and we talk it from there. We touch base in the last few weeks. I think in December and January we touch base on the success, the hardship, and the water. And we will touch inshallah in the next few weeks about more subject and topics. I really urge every one of you guys to support Lamin TV station and provide support and your feedback, and also you can join us in the Facebook page. It's called facebook.com/topics and Quran. I really read all the feedbacks and urge you for putting the comments and the discussions. You know why we have that program? That program is to explain more about Quran. A lot of people misunderstand the value of Quran. It's word from God. It's the last word that have been revealed for more than 1400 years ago. So a lot of people misunderstand that. So we need to clear it a little bit. Some people, mistreat Quran and misunderstand it. So we just need to be in the same page and perspective. Alhamdulillah. And again, by all means, you recommend or you put a comments about what topics you need to talk about, and we will inshallah try to make it in the upcoming weeks. Today's topic is about money. I know it's like a very hard topic for a lot of people, but it's touching every one of us. When you go to the store, when you buy something, you go to work, get a job, you need money, right? So we need to talk about money and see how Quran, mashallah, reflect on that. Money have been there for a long time. I mean, nobody can exactly put a pinpoint on the money, but it's like if you really go and check the history of money in the human being life, so it will be more than 100,000 years, something like that. It starts in the form of barter or trade between goods and services between different tribes. So they sell a certain product or agriculture, and other will return in a different form or service or goods. What is the definition of money? Money is like a medium that we exchange goods and services and use to measure their value based on the market, the supply and demand, the needs for the people. It's including among the community like gold and official coin and notes. We can find it on the notes. This deposit on the checking account, checking account and saving account. Some people define it as the currency or coins. Something like negotiable papers like T-notes or the government through the government. Some people define it as assets, assets or property considered in terms of money. It have a value, monetary value, or a wealth. Some people define it as a wealth. They have a different meaning, but at the end of the day, it's something that we use in our daily life. And some people say it's amount of cash or credit, or debit, or it have different meaning. But it's very urgent and important in our life. In the management perspective and the project management, you cannot build anything or have any project without any, money, budget and cost estimation. So from our day-to-day activity is very key and critical. It have been used for more than, as I said, more than 100 years, 100,000 years. It have the concept about barter, where people exchange goods and services. That was existed in human life like more than 100,000 years, and different society where be considered as a rich in their value based on the products and the goods that they manufacture or trade. I remember that in the Egyptian civilization they used to go and do trades from Egypt all the way to the countries in Africa, different countries. They trade, exchange gold versus different products or different. They can go also to India and Asia and the Far East. So they used that concept about trading. People were having like a special trades, and they go in the history. I mean, in the old days, they used like the big campaign to go from a certain area to other area and do the trades. And it's like, you know, what we see it today is like the market or the fleet market. You know, it's like every week someone will show their product. It is that concept, but it was like more in the travel across different areas, and it take like long time. The trips took like 30 days or around that. So it was created in the economy. The economy was there. The idea about trading and moving the finance and the goods between countries and between tribes and societies, hundreds of thousands of years back, and people used to live on that. Money have been existing for a long time. Brother Mustafa, let's see the video number 1, and see how things were there in the history. Video number 1.
Society today is composed of a series of institutions. From political institutions, legal institutions, religious institutions, to institutions of social class, familial values, and occupational specialization. It is obvious the profound influence these traditionalized structures have in shaping our understandings and perspectives. Yet, of all the social institutions we are born into, directed by, and conditioned upon, there seems to be no system as taken for granted and misunderstood as the monetary system. Taking on nearly religious proportions, the established monetary institution exists as one of the most unquestioned forms of faith there is. How money is created, the policies by which it is governed, and how it truly affects society are unregistered interests of the great majority of the population. In a world where 1% of the population owns 40% of the planet's wealth, in a world where 34,000 children die every single day from poverty and preventable diseases, and where 50% of the world's population lives on less than $2 a day, one thing is clear: something is very wrong. And whether we are aware of it or not, the lifeblood of all of our established institutions, and thus society itself, is money. Therefore, understanding this institution of monetary policy is critical to understanding why our lives are the way they are. Unfortunately, economics is often viewed with confusion and boredom. Endless streams of financial jargon coupled with intimidating mathematics quickly deters people from attempts at understanding it. However, the fact is, the complexity associated with the financial system is a mere mask, designed to conceal one of the most socially paralyzing structures humanity has ever endured.
All right, so it's very complicated topic that the financial institutions and the banks and all those institutes are working with the money, and it have been since the beginning of time. It's all the human. It's one of the human critical tools that we use in our life. I remember that Benjamin Franklin was saying, "Time is money." You remember? Also, he have say the use of money is all the advantage there in having it. Also, he said that remember the credit is money. That credit is money. He have a lot of says about money. There is money has never made a man happy, nor will it. There is nothing in the nature to produce happiness. The more one has, the more he want, out of money. Also, Thomas Jefferson, he would say, never spend your money before you earn it. That was Thomas Jefferson, long time back. Also, he have a say, Thomas Jefferson, he said, money, not mortality, is the principal commerce of the civilized nations. He said another one, he said, the glow of the one warm thought is, to me, worth more than money. He was saying that the ideas and the bringing ideas, it worth sometimes it worth more than money, and you can realize it that in a lot of companies, like especially with the social media and stuff like that, like Google or Facebook or YouTube. All those ideas can sometimes it worth more than money. Also, Benjamin Franklin was saying there are three faithful friends: an old wife, an old dog, and a ready money. Money is like a very faithful friend. He would say, if you would know the value of money, go and try to borrow some. That was Benjamin Franklin. Um, Also, one say for Martin Luther King, he was saying the nation that continued year after year to spend money on the military defense than the programs of social uplifting is approaching a spiritual doom. It's very key that we spend money wisely, especially on our social life and social societies, and building the nation in a good way. Mark Twain was saying, honesty is the best policy when there is no where is money on it, and the lack of money is the root of all evil. That was Mark Twain also saying that. A lot of problems, and if you see most of the problems that are happening in our days, especially with the society, because of lack of money. Sometimes, sometimes it's lack of moral and ethics. In addition, also people losing the money, it can cause problem. The economical situation. If you guys see the economical crisis that we have been living in the last couple of years, where nations fail down. Some nations fail down, like Greece. They have a bailout. A lot of problems across Europe. A lot of problems across the China and India. A lot of and US too. So yeah, all of that because of the money transfer and money. Money issues, money related issues. So it can build or shake some nations. The money. Bob Hope was saying a bank is a place that will lend you money if you can prove it that you don't need it. So if you prove that you don't need the money, the bank will lend you. Just FYI, that was Bob Hope say. Henry Ford was saying a business that makes nothing but money is a poor business. That was Henry Ford in the 30s or 40s. President Reagan was saying, I've never been able to understand why a Republican contributor is a fat cat and a Democratic contributor is the same amount of money is a public spirited philosopher or whatever, philanthropy. Government always find a need for whatever money it gets. That was Ronald Reagan back in the 80s. Steve Jobs was saying, with our technology, with objects, literally 3 people in the garage can blow away what 200 people at Microsoft can do. 3 people with Apple. He was referring to Apple. Literally, we blow away. Corporate America has a need that is huge and can save them so much money and make them so much money and cost them so much money if they miss it. That they are going to fool the object revolution. That was back in the early 90s when he was building Apple competing with Microsoft. During the time he have different say, it's hard to tell with the internet startups if they are really interested in building companies or they are interested in just money. That was in the 90s boom, when the internet was booming on the late 90s. Innovation has nothing to do with how many RMs and dollars RMs and dollars you have. When Apple came to the with the Mac, IBM was spending at least 100 times in the R&D. But it's not about money. It's more about the people. It's about the people who led it and the people who have it and the people who have the idea and how much you get it. That was Steve Jobs when he was commenting about Mac versus IBM. Pretty much Apple, Dell are the only ones in the industry making money. That was back in the early 2000. They are making they make it by being Walmart. We make it by innovation. So that was his feedback about money. Steve Jobs, he was saying that we make the IT industry is competing to Walmart. Warren Buffett was saying rule number one, never lose money. Rule number two, never forget number one. Never forget rule number one. That was his two rules. Never lose money. Also, he have a say of the billionaires that I have known. Money just bring out the basic traits in them. If they were jerks before they had money, they are simply jerks with $1 billion. That was Warren Buffett, even if they have money. Also have a say, I have never attempted to make money on a stock market. I buy the assumption that they could close the market in the next day and reopen it after 5 years. That was his assumption when he go with the stock market. So again, it's a lot of people saying different things about money, and it's very key in our life. When you go to get food for your kids, or when you go to get treating or medical assistant or medicine, you have to spend money. When you work, you have to earn your paycheck, or if you have your own business, you have to have like a balance sheet at the end of the months, or at the end of the year you have to do the taxation. It's across every aspect in our life, and it's very critical. How would we look to the money, and how would we use it? But remember, at the end, it's just a resource. You utilize it well, you will earn well. If you utilize it bad, you know what will happen. Walt Disney, he was saying, you reach a point where you don't work for money. That was Walt Disney when he was building Disneyland. He was saying also Disneyland is a work of love. We didn't go into Disneyland just with the idea of making money. That was the Walt Disney back. It's not about, when you have a successful business, just FYI, it's not about making money. It's about something you like and love and enjoy. At the end, it will bring money. That is the result. Also, he have a say. I would say it has been the biggest problem in my life. It's money. One of the things that it takes a lot of money to make these dreams come true. Remember, Walt Disney was like he was like bankrupted like 7 times, but at the end he created Disneyland. It's Disneyland everywhere now, across Europe and Japan and US. So that was back in the 50s, I believe. Also, President Obama, he was saying money is not the only answer, but it makes the difference. It makes a difference. That was President Obama. Nelson Mandela was saying money won't create success, the freedom to make it well. When you have a freedom, you can make success. Ralph Waldo Emerson, he was saying money often costs too much. In order to get money, you have to spend money. I think we can see video number 2 at this point. And we will touch base after that. Let's go.
Reserve produced a document entitled Modern Money Mechanics. This publication detailed the institutionalized practice of money creation as utilized by the Federal Reserve and the web of global commercial banks it supports. On the opening page, the document states its objective. The purpose of this booklet is to describe the basic process of money creation in a fractional reserve banking system. It then proceeds to describe this fractional reserve process through various banking terminology, a translation of which goes something like this. The United States government decides it needs some money, so it calls up the Federal Reserve and requests, say, $10 billion. The Fed replies, saying, sure, we'll buy $10 billion in government bonds from you. So the government takes some pieces of paper, paints some official-looking designs on them, and calls them treasury bonds. Then it puts a value on these bonds to the sum of $10 billion and sends them over to the Fed. In turn, the people at the Fed draw up a bunch of impressive pieces of paper themselves, only this time calling them Federal Reserve notes, also designating a value of $10 billion to the set. The Fed then takes these notes and trades them for the bonds. Once this exchange is complete, the government then takes the $10 billion in Federal Reserve notes and deposits it into a bank account. And upon this deposit, the paper notes officially become legal tender money, adding $10 billion to the U.S. money supply. And there it is. $10 billion in new money has been created. Of course, this example is a generalization, for, in reality, this transaction would occur electronically, with no paper used at all. In fact, only 3% of the U.S. money supply exists in physical currency. The other 97% essentially exists in computers alone. Now, government bonds are, by design, instruments of debt, and when the Fed purchases these bonds, with money it essentially created out of thin air, the government is actually promising to pay back that money to the Fed. In other words, the money was created out of debt. This mind-numbing paradox of how money or value can be created out of debt or a liability will become more clear as we further this exercise. So, the exchange has been made and now $10 billion sits in a commercial bank account. Here's where it gets really interesting. For as based on the fractional reserve practice, that $10 billion deposit instantly becomes part of the bank's reserves, just as all deposits do. And regarding reserve requirements, as stated in modern money mechanics, a bank must maintain legally required reserves equal to a prescribed percentage of its deposits. It then quantifies this by stating, under current regulations, the reserve requirement against most transaction accounts is 10%. This means that with a $10 billion deposit, 10% or $1 billion is held as the required reserve, while the other $9 billion is considered an excessive reserve and can be used as the basis for new loans. Now, it is logical to assume that this $9 billion is literally coming out of the existing $10 billion deposit. However, this is actually not the case. What really happens is that the $9 billion is simply created out of thin air on top of the existing $10 billion deposit. This is how the money supply is expanded. As stated in modern money mechanics, of course they, the banks, do not really pay out loans from the money they receive as deposits. If they did this, no additional money would be created. What they do when they make loans is to accept promissory notes, loan contracts, in exchange for credits, money, to the borrower's transaction accounts. In other words, the $9 billion can be created out of nothing simply because there is a demand for such a loan and that there is a $10 billion deposit to satisfy the reserve requirements. Now, let's assume that somebody walks into this bank and borrows the newly available $9 billion. They will then most likely take that money and deposit it into their own bank account. The process then repeats, for that deposit becomes part of the bank's reserves. 10% is isolated, and in turn 90% of the $9 billion, or $8.1 billion, is now available as newly created money for more loans. And of course, that 8.1 can be loaned out and redeposited, creating an additional 7.2 billion, to 6.5 billion, to 5.9 billion, etc. This deposit money creation loan cycle can technically go on to infinity. The average mathematical result is that about $90 billion can be created on top of the original $10 billion. In other words, for every deposit that ever occurs in the banking system, about 9 times that amount can be created out of thin air.
Money jitters. Ask the obliging Bank of America for a jar of soothing instant money, M-O-N-E-Y, in the form of a convenient personal loan.
So, now that we understand how money is created by this fractional reserve banking system, a logical yet elusive question might come to mind. What is actually giving this newly created money value? The answer? The money that already exists. The new money essentially steals value from the existing money supply. For the total pool of money is being increased irrespective to demand for goods and services. And as supply and demand finds equilibrium, prices rise, diminishing the purchasing power of each individual dollar. This is generally referred to as inflation, and inflation is essentially a hidden tax on the public.
What is the advice that you generally get? And that is inflate the currency. They don't say debase the currency. They don't say devalue the currency. They don't say cheat the people who are saved. They say lower the interest rates. The real deception is when we distort the value of money, when we create money out of thin air. We have no savings, and yet there's so-called capital. So my question boils down to this: how in the world can we expect to solve the problems of inflation, that is, the increase in the supply of money, with more inflation?
Of course, it can't. The fractional reserve system of monetary expansion is inherently inflationary. For the act of expanding the money supply, without there being a proportional expansion of goods and services in the economy, will always debase a currency. In fact, a quick glance at the historical values of the US dollar versus the money supply reflects this point definitively, for the inverse relationship is obvious. $1 in 1913 required $21.60 in 2007 to match value. That is a 96% devaluation since the Federal Reserve came into existence. Now, if this reality of inherent and perpetual inflation seems absurd and economically self-defeating, hold that thought, for absurdity is an understatement in regard to how our financial system really operates. For in our financial system, money is debt, and debt is money. Here is a chart.
All right, so I don't want to be scaring all of you guys. I know that this is the current system. We didn't intervene with it. This is the modern society. They like that idea about the debt, but again, don't confuse yourself with the billions. And this is on the government level. We don't care about that level of 9 billions, 10 billions, and the thin air and all those kind of things. They have their own business. They will deal with it, and they have the right questions and the right people to answer those. But from our perspective, again, money is very critical, and as you see, nation can raise and fail based on that. Remember, there is a saying, too big to fail. That's incorrect a little bit. I mean, even if you are big, you can fail. But again, the point is not that. The point is this is the current monetary system on the society that we live in, the nationwide. In our term, I mean, in Quran, let's reflect from Quran, it's always talking about money in multiple areas. If you go and search on the Quran.com, or you can go to tanzil.net, all those public sites, you can go and read Quran. You can go to Quran in the library and read it. It's, alhamdulillah, it's available. You go and you will find a lot of wisdom and knowledge about that point, that the money, how you earn it and how you spend it. The way that Muslim people treating the money, or they should treat the money, it's very valuable and respectable. A lot of theses and studies have been implemented on the Islamic system of monetary system and how the Islamic bank is working. You can also read that. But my concern is about the topic. The money itself in the multiplication. It's always it bundle that is al-mal wal-banun. Usually it's about when Quran talk about al-mal, it's always talking al-mal wal-banun. Al-mal wal-banun zinat al-hayat ad-dunya. It's all about money and children or kids. Those are the critical thing to think about. It's tangible to the family, It have different areas. I will just cover today only about Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter number 2 in the Quran. I will not go over the rest. We have a lot